This past week, Colonel, we saw China come up with a peace plan. I thought it was very reasonable, of course. Not of course. I did think it was very reasonable and, of course, it was reasonable. Immediately rejected by that creepy Jake Sullivan and the establishment media, literally before the words left the Chinese diplomat's mouth, called for a ceasefire in place, peace talks as soon as possible, not to threaten using nuclear weapons. I read it very carefully. Immediately, the EU warmongers rejected this peace plan, saying that China had already supported Moscow in the war. Why has China entered in at this point in a more dramatic way? Why do you think they understand they have to take a side sort of with not neutrality? It's sort of on the side of Russia, isn't it?
Well, you've hit an enormous nail on the head. This is a hugely important issue. The biggest mistake we could possibly make was to dismiss a proposal by the Chinese out of hand. Right. This is the largest country in the world. And their industrial base today that is capable of producing ammunition, missiles, rockets, and so forth is twice the size of what ours was during the height of the Second World War.
Wait, let's pause on that. That's very important. China has a native ability to produce twice and is producing twice the amount of the weaponry.
Well, they're not producing it at the moment, but they have the capacity to do it.
To produce twice the amount of weaponry we produced at the height of World War II?
Yes, absolutely.
With General Motors, General Dynamics, U.S. Steel?
Yes, this is what people don't seem to understand. And thus far, contrary to popular belief, the Chinese have not provided material support to Russia.
Have not.
No. What the Chinese have said repeatedly to the Russians is, we understand your position.
Mm-hmm.
And we understand what you're trying to do, but we would like you to do this quickly and find a way to end it quickly. And that makes perfect sense if you're Chinese, because your preeminent goal is to build the rail lines between China and Europe for this One Belt, One Road program. Most of that rail has to go straight through Ukraine.
Oh, my God.
Northern Russia and White Russia, because that's where you've got to go to reach the terminals in Europe. So that's what they want to do. And the Russians had signed on with the Chinese years ago to help them by helping them to stabilize Central Asia. If you go to the various stands, as people call them, the people that rule those countries, the governments, are much more comfortable.
As Uzbekistan, etc.
Yes, Kazakhstan and Turkestan and so forth. They're much more comfortable with the Russians than they are with the Chinese. They don't trust the Chinese. They don't like the Chinese, but they're willing to cooperate. And the Russians have essentially backed them, provided them with support when they needed it. And the Chinese have been very grateful for that stability, because you can't do business in a crisis, in a chaotic, war-torn area. So the Chinese were never happy about what was happening in Ukraine, but they understood it.